Hello, and welcome to the Faith Science Podcast. My name is Tyler Bublitz, and welcome to this special edition of the Faith and Science Podcast. I really enjoy creating this every year because this is the Gustavus Faith, Science, and Ethics Camp week. I really enjoy being able to hear from young people, being from high school and college age students, talking about and thinking about how do faith, science, and ethics come together. And the topic this year was the sweet life, getting granular with sugar. And I was able to be there kind of as an introduction and be able to get some initial thoughts of some of these students as they were getting into this week, as they are focusing in and contemplating how is sugar affect our lives? How is the effect going on scientifically in our faith background and ethically? And there was some great discussions that I know happened this week. And as this podcast is dropping, they are wrapping up this week. But before we get into all the craziness of what they did, I wanted to have you hear from them their initial thoughts. So what you will hear is their answers to the following questions. 1, their name, grade. What is their importance or interest in faith, science, and ethics? Why did they come to a faith, science, and ethics camp? What is the first thing they think of when they hear the word sugar? And in their mind, is sugar a positive thing or a negative thing? And why? So listen in and hear what they have to say.
My name is Eva. I will be a senior at Gustavus Adolphus College, and I have a strong sense of the combination between faith, science, and ethics. It's been very prevalent in my life. This is my 7th time doing this camp, so I've had lots of discussions regarding this. The first word that I think of with thinking about sugar is definitely sweetness. And I think sugar is both positive and negative, and it's very dependent on the situation.
My name's Garrett. I'm an incoming college freshman. An importance interest in faith, science, and ethics for me is this kind of faith has been important in my life and a lot of the things that I get involved in personally. And part of that is kind of just understanding my faith, and then also kind of like random things that spark my interest is partly with this camp being at Gustavus and being at Lutheran College, kind of understanding more with Martin Luther. First word you think of with sugar would be food. And is sugar a positive or a negative, and why? I think that it can't inherently be a negative, although there can be negatives with how we use sugar.
I'm Olivia. I will be a sophomore at Gustavus. The importance and interest in faith, science, and ethics, really comes out of the faith, science, and ethics camp at Gustavus, and also the way that those have interacted in my own life, especially working in the medical field, kind of seeing how those both work together. I would say the first word I think of when I think of sugar is probably glucose. And then I probably wouldn't say sugar is positive or negative. I'd go with both because obviously we need sugar to live, but there's also a lot of negative side effects with overconsumption.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm going into 12th grade. I think the importance of faith, science, and ethics is that they are the compass in our lives, pointing us in a positive direction. The first word that I think of when I imagine sugar is sweet. And then I'm not sure that sugar necessarily belongs in the good or bad framing. I think it's arguably both. There's a good case for both, depending on situation, which is unfortunate because there's not a clear answer. It's not black or white, which is, again, unfortunate.
Sam, going into 11th grade. Something that was interesting me regarding faith, science, and ethics was that really got me to come to the camp was my questioning on the creation of the world and that sort of idea. And I really didn't have an answer. And I really wanted to learn about that. And yeah. First word I think of when I think of sugar would be like candy, sweets. And then in terms of whether sugar is a positive or a negative, I would definitely put it more towards the positive side. As an athlete, you sort of rely on it to boost energy levels and be able to give 100% full time through the game and stuff. And so I feel like it really brings more positives, especially when that's sort of its only purpose in your diet.
My name is Griggs, and I'm going into the 12th grade. So I'm going into my senior year. I'm going to college though. PSEO is such a great thing, and I'm happy it exists. And the importance and interest in faith, science, and ethics is that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and it's important to know that we shouldn't understand everything just from one perspective. It's important to understand that a lot of these things are working together in ways that we just don't even realize. The next question is what do you think when you think of sugar? I usually think of diabetes, probably. It's something that is happening a lot here and is definitely happening in other places. But it's important that we understand diabetes and how to know if someone with it is needing our help. And I think sugar is a negative, probably, because it really... Okay, how do I phrase this? It's kind of like all those people that are buying diamonds or something like that. There's a lot of people that want those things, and usually those things come from places that are usually poorer. I know cocoa is made in places that they can just pay their workers basically nothing. And I think that amount of injustice in how much they are paid is something that we should talk about and is a big negative for our living as people.
My name's Linnea Beckstrom. I'm going to be a senior in college. Part of the reason why I came to this camp was just because I knew a lot of people who felt really connected and had really good experiences in the past. And when I noticed that, especially people that I really respect, I definitely take their word for it when it comes to good experiences and wanting to do things. And it's only been a day and it's already been super, super fun. And we've already learned a lot. Also, I just feel like that intersection is really important, and wisdom is really important in the faith community, and that goes along with science, and then doing stuff with that wisdom as well is really important. So first word I think of with sugar is probably just sweet. That's just kind of a basic answer. But we haven't really gotten into the week yet that much. I'm sure that will change when we learn about all of the horrible things that have happened with sugar as well, which kind of leads me to the next question. Is sugar a positive or negative, and why? I know this is kind of a cop-out, but I think it's both. I think nuance is really important, and whenever anyone says something is completely positive or completely negative, I kind of always side-eye that a little bit, especially with what we've already learned about sugar. In our everyday lives, sugar is really awesome. It's really nice to get a little sweet treat at the end of the day, but also if you overindulge, it can be really bad for you and your health. So I think there's nuance and a balance to that. So I don't think it's positive or negative, but it's also both. So, yeah.
My name is Allie Brodeen, and I just finished my junior year of college at Gustavus. I am very interested in faith science and ethics, and it's been 6 years since I started coming to this academy. I started in 2020, and I think that the first word I think of with sugar is nuanced. And I think that faith, science, and ethics go together in a way that's very important because science doesn't negate faith. If anything, aspects of science underline faith in a way that makes me feel more connected to it. It's just important to go throughout it with an open mind rather than one that's seeking to rule either faith or science out. And I think that sugar is a positive thing overall. The issue is when it's misused. I would say there's a lot of negatives from the history of sugar and the global exploitation that sugar has caused over history, as well as how it's overused in our food, and American palates especially have become much too over-accustomed to overly sweetened foods. Yet, sugar is something that's good overall because it brings sweetness and good into our lives. The Bible itself even talks about the importance of sweetness and good things in our lives. While they didn't have refined sugar, they did have honey and other things that were very good for them and directly said by God that you should have these things. It's simply overindulgence that becomes the issue, which is also discussed in the Bible specifically about honey and sweetness.
So my name is Toby, and I just finished 16th grade, and I'll hopefully be starting 17th grade in a couple years. I am really interested in our faith, science, and ethics camp, which I've been doing for 8 years, because I think getting a taste of real science in a hands-on way and about an everyday relevant topic is super important. And then also we live in a pretty Christian society, and personally I draw a lot from that. And so you need to understand that as well and how they both function in the world we live in. The first word I think of when I think about sugar is sweet, and in general, I tend to think about desserts. And then, as for if sugar is positive or negative, well, I tend to mostly think about granulated and syrup sugar, and so with that, I think about how much stuff it's added to. So my first reaction is to see it as negative and as something that I should probably eat less of.
My name is Luna, and I'm in 10th grade. I came to this camp not really knowing anything about it, but I like science, so I'm excited to learn new things about it. The first word I think of when I hear sugar is obviously the word sugar, but I also think of the negative effect it has on us if we consume too much of it. Of course, I feel like it's more of how processed it is, like granulated sugar, as opposed to natural sugar, like the ones in fruit. But sugar is very addictive, which makes it easy for us to have too much, and too much can be a bad thing.
My name is Amelia Staples. I'm going to be a senior this fall. Importance and interest in the faith, science, and ethics camp to me was learning about what sugar does to the body, as well as how ethical it is to put sugar into so many foods when it is not truly needed. The first word that I think of when I think of sugar is sugar cane. And I believe natural sugars are a good thing because they slowly absorb into the body, but added sugars lead to many problems such as bad eating habits, diet, and health issues like heart disease.
My name is Caleb. I'm going into senior year of high school. I was interested in how sugar can play a role in faith and ethics. And first thing I think of when I hear sugar is probably dessert. I think sugar is a mixed bag. There's its positives and its negatives. One of the positives is makes things sweeter, more delicious. But if you have too much of it, you start to have some problems.
Isn't there some wisdom that we can definitely pick up from our younger members of our society? I think there is some great insight that they're able to get into in contemplating some of the difficult things that we have to think about when we're contemplating sugar. Yes, it's essential to parts of our body being able to function. But in the same breath, we do, especially here in the American culture, have this idea of overconsumption, and especially when it comes to sweetness and especially sugar. And we can't also completely forget the cultural significance of what this has done ethically to people for us just craving and chasing after sugar. It's one of the things that I really enjoy that Gustavus Adolphus does with this faith, science, and ethics camp. It's so exciting and invigorating to be in that space, be around these young thinkers, and hear and contemplate and see them wrestle as we continue to learn about this. And especially if you have a high school age student, I'd highly recommend taking a look at it for next year, because it is an amazing opportunity for them to be able to be around top scientists, top theologians, and be in this place of wrestling. And is that not what we talk about and think about some with this podcast week after week? As we are walking forward within our own faith, I think there's a lot of times that we have to be able to confront both the science and the faith and the ethics of all these different decisions on what we are doing. And it's amazing and fun to be able to see the next generation of these thinkers already getting into that place. And I think there is a lot to learn. I think sugar is something that, yes, has benefits, and it does need to be used and monitored. But yes, I think there is extremes to it that can be taken way too far. We are compared and told as the people of Israel that we are going to have this land flowing with milk and honey. But yet we also still have this idea and is discussed that we cannot overconsume as well. And as we are in a world where consumption is this driving force within us, I think it's something that we all need to continue to work on. As we are into the beginning of this after Pentecost season, I think that's one thing that we can contemplate and think about for an extended period of time, is our consumption. Be it of sugar or other things, how much are we consuming? And what does that mean for us long term? What are the ethics of the different things that we're doing? Is this thing going to be beneficial to my body and it's needed, like there's certain times when I do need sugars to make sure that my body functions? Or is this something where I am indulging myself and over-consuming, and it can potentially lead to long-term health effects because I'm putting my body through additional strain? I think within our own faith life, we go through the same types of questions. And I think that's what the heart of what the Gustavus Faith, Science, and Ethics Camp is. It's about asking those difficult questions and getting us to think deeply about them. And for me, that's one of the major reasons on why I enjoy being a part of this camp yet again. So thank you to all the staff and all the participants of the Gustavus Faith, Science, and Ethics Camp. I enjoy being able to come down and spend time with you. And for some of you, it's been multiple times, 3 times, being able to interact with you and hear your thoughts. And it's so important for us to be able to hear these young people and listen to them. But also so important for us to be able to take what they're saying, contemplate, and grow. Because without that, it's easy for us to miss the science, the faith, and the ethics of all our decisions that we're making. So, we'll wrap this up as we always do. I pray God blesses you through your faith and amazes you through science.